This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Joe Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day, and this will be the only video I will be doing for today, January the 21st. Well, taping for 2023. I did other January 21st videos, but anyway. We are talking about Super Bowl 13 in 1979. Yes, I talked about this kind of at length. When I talked a couple days ago when I did the Super Bowl 10 video, I talked about, Pittsburgh and Dallas beat each other in Super Bowl 13. Yep. So I decided to do that game. So there was a lot that happened. This was the fifth and final time that the Miami Orange Bowl would host a Super Bowl, which is shocking because, Miami usually was there. So 5 of the first 13 Super Bowls were at the Orange Bowl Stadium. And the Orange Bowl Stadium stayed around until 2007, although the Dolphins would move to Joe Robbie in 1987. They could have had at least 1 or 2 more Super Bowls. But anyway, this was actually the first time that a Super Bowl had a rematch of a previous one, because the Steelers and Cowboys met in Super Bowl 10. This will be the first repeat matchup. And both teams were trying to get a third Super Bowl, breaking the Packers mark. Dallas won the Super Bowl the previous year and took care of the Falcons and LA Rams to get this far. Pittsburgh was 14-2. Dallas was 12-4. Pittsburgh beat Denver and Houston in the Super Bowl. Well, the playoffs. Well, they crushed Houston, giving up only 5 points in the AFC Championship game. So anyway, they were trying to be the team of the 70s because both franchises won their 2 championships in the 70s and all that. So it was huge and all that. The Steelers were looking good. Terry Bradshaw had played what considered his best season of his career for over 2,900 yards passing. A lot of teams are like, well, we got 3,000-yard passers. Well, you got to remember, this is when running was still huge and all that. Bradshaw was the MVP. Lynn Swann and John Stallworth were great receivers, as they always are, combined for 20 touchdowns. Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier shared the running attack. The offensive line of Mike Webster did his job. Steel Curtin actually had John Banaszak and Tony Dungy. Yes, Tony Dungy was a Pittsburgh Steeler, and yes, he was an NFL player before his coaching career. And they were still good. They still had Mean Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Jack Ham, and Jack Lambert in the defensive line, with Mal Blount and Donnie Shell also doing well in the secondary. Dallas was looking for their third Super Bowl title in 5 appearances. There were 2-2 in Super Bowls. Super Bowl 5, they lost the Blunder Bowl. Super Bowl 6, they beat Miami into a bloody pulp. They lost Super Bowl 10 to the Steelers and beat Super Bowl 12 in Super Bowl 12 Denver. Roger Staubach was still the quarterback king, over 3,100 yards passing. Drew Pearson and Tony Hill were good receivers. Billy Joe Dupree, great at tight end. Tony Dorsett putting up his running back seasons like he always did. The offensive line of Rayfield Wright. The Doomsday defense with Tuthall Jones, Harvey Martin, Randy White, alongside D.D. Lewis, Hollywood Henderson, and Cliff Harris. So, as I said, Dallas and Pittsburgh both went to the playoffs. Dallas almost got taken out by Atlanta. They were winning 27-20, and then they shut out the LA Rams on home turf 28-0. The Steelers crushed Denver 33-10 and Houston 34-5. So it was just amazing and all that. It was a heavyweight title feel because, the Steelers and Cowboys were trying to be the best team in the 70s. They were trying to get their third title, all that. So, anyway. So the Cowboys would wear white and Pittsburgh would wear their blacks. Anyway, so the Cowboys and Steelers, there was a lot of hype. Unfortunately, Hollywood Henderson of the Cowboys got in the wrong direction. He basically said that Bradshaw couldn't spell cat if he spelled him the C and A. But the Steelers refused to listen to reason and just decided not to talk back. Pittsburgh. The line was Pittsburgh at -4. Anyway, NBC would televise the game. Kirk Gowdy, John Brody, and Merlin Olsen were in the play-by-play booth. Dick Enberg was the pregame host. But of course, Dick Enberg would soon become the #1 broadcaster for NBC. Anyway, so it was huge. Yeah. Gowdy would leave NBC for CBS in 1979, which was shocking. And then Enberg took care of Gowdy's thing. So anyway, Jack Buck and Hank Stram would call it for the radio networks and all that. So anyway, it was huge and all that. So anyway, after all, so as of right now, January 2023, John Brody is the only living TV announcer, play-by-play/color, to actually be alive from any of the first 18 Super Bowls. Which is like amazing. John Brody. But what's even more huge is that from the first 21 Super Bowls, only John Brody and Joe Theismann are still around. George Halas did the coin flip. So anyways, the first quarter, and Drew Pearson fumbled the ball. John Banaszak caught the ball, and then a few plays later, Bradshaw threw a 28-yard touchdown pass to John Stallworth, 7-0 Pittsburgh. The Cowboys were trying their best and all that. And then Staubach threw a touchdown to Tony Hill, 7-7. So it worked. So it was amazing. So anyway, Hollywood Henderson did go after Bradshaw on a blitz. The ball popped loose. And Mike Hagman took the ball and returned the fumble, 37-yard touchdown, 14-7. The Steelers were unusually turning the ball over and all that. Stallworth caught a pass from Bradshaw at the Steelers 35, and then he broke a tackle and got the blockers. It was a 10-yard pass that turned into a 75-yard touchdown completion, tie game, 14-14. It was beautiful how Stallworth did that. So anyway, in the second quarter, just before halftime, Bradshaw got a touchdown pass to Rocky Bleier, 21-14 Steelers. The third quarter saw a lot of things happen. With 3 minutes left, it was the play that would be described in Super Bowl 13 why it was huge. Staubach had the ball and spotted Jackie Smith wide open in the end zone, threw him the ball. The reserve tight end, who was a Cardinals legend, who was scooped up by Dallas. All Smith had to do was keep his hands close to him, tie game. But unfortunately, the ball was thrown low, and Smith was trying to catch it, but he stumbled, and he dropped the ball. He should have made the play, Jackie Smith said. And Fern Lundquist on the Cowboys radio said, "Oh, bless his heart. He's got to be the sickest man in America." I would be too. They did kick a field goal to make it 21-17. Unfortunately, though, Jackie Smith is known for his drop touchdown. Anyway, there were some bad penalties and all that. Bradshaw tried to throw a pass to Lynn Swan, but he collided with Benny Barnes and fell to the ground. Ball rolled incomplete. Unfortunately, Barnes was called for pass interference, and it was incidental contact, which meant no harm, no foul. Swan bumped into Barnes, so that meant Pittsburgh had the ball at the 23-yard line of Dallas. Yeah, Pittsburgh got a delay of game penalty and all that. Well, the weird thing was that the delay of game penalty happened to make it 39. If it didn't go through, Henderson would have sacked Bradshaw for a 12-yard loss. But anyway, Bradshaw handed the ball off to Franco Harris, who ran up the field for 22 yards. The unfortunate part was that the umpire, not the referee, but the umpire, Art Demas, actually impeded Charlie Waters' attempt to tackle him. So it was just terrible and all that. So anyway, Bradshaw threw a touchdown pass to Lynn Swan, making it 35-17 with 7 minutes left. It was like, well, it's a blowout. However, the Cowboys refused to give up. They got a touchdown pass from Roger Staubach to Billy Joe Dupree, making it 35-24. And then with 2 minutes left, they did get an onside kick recovered. And then Pearson caught a couple of key passes, and then Staubach to Butch Johnson made it 35-31 with 22 seconds left. Unfortunately, the Cowboys could not do another onside kick attempt to be successful. Steelers ran the clock over. It was 35-31. Anyway, Terry Bradshaw was named Super Bowl MVP, and he mocked Hollywood Henderson's comments, saying that, ask him if you can spell MVP. They did actually meet in Week 9 of the 79 regular season, and the Steelers won 14-3. Anyway, Pittsburgh would cement their team of 70s status by beating the Rams in Super Bowl 14. Dallas wouldn't be that far behind. They tried their best. They got to 3 straight NFC title games in the early 80s, but they couldn't reach the Super Bowl until Super Bowl 27. A lot of people said it was one of the greatest Super Bowls around. There were 2 great football teams. Who can disagree with that? I mean, on a beautiful 4 Eastern time, Steelers won 35-31. Unfortunately, that game would be remembered for Jackie Smith's drop ball. All that. So anyway, that would be huge. Now, I do want to point out that even though Hollywood Henderson made those comments that were terrible and all that, he did clean himself up. He said he was under a drug habit, and since 1981, he was sober, clean sober, and he won a lottery in 2000 of over $26 million and used it to build a youth center and all that, and saying that, helping the underprivileged helped them out. So at least there's a silver lining to everything. And yeah, Super Bowl 13 was one of the best Super Bowls in the world for a while, so can't beat that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do